doesn't it? But yet, it's Friday. Folks, welcome back to a redo of our Cloud Talk Live. Everyone, my name is Jeff DeVerter. I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist for us here at Rackspace Technology. Now, you know that the Cloud Talk Live happens every Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. Central. And now it's Friday, and you're thinking to yourself, why is it we get a little extra Jeff this week? Well, I'll tell you why. Because you know we had some challenges this past Tuesday. And it all stems from that pesky internet. It's awesome until it's not. And that's the experience we had on Tuesday. And I didn't want to let the entire week go by. In fact, the whole production team did not want to let a whole week go by before we were able to bring to you the guests that we had for Tuesday. And Sarah Hollingsworth is the guest. And she wanted to be on. She had friends who were looking for her. They're going, what is wrong with Jeff's internet connection? Why can't we hear you? So here's what we did. We stripped out all the stuff. I did save a little bit of the music, but we just saved some time to have a conversation with Sarah Hollingsworth. So Daniel, producer Daniel, let's bring Sarah up onto the stage. Awesome. Here we are. Sarah, welcome again to Cloud Talk Live.
Thank you, Jeff.
Here we are.
This is another round.
I know, round two, right?
Yes.
We do what we got to do. Well, first of all, thank you so much, not just for taking the time today, but really, of course, trying on Tuesday and coming back. And I know as hey, Michael, glad you're here. Guys, I did forget to say that, but welcome yourselves here to the show. Say hello. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you are. Sarah she didn't believe me that people from all around the world watch this. So you guys have to prove her wrong. Corinne, oh, how long has it been? That is so exciting. And Sean, of course, glad you're here.
Oh my gosh, so many rockers I used to work with are entering the chat.
I know, it's so much fun. Did you spend much time with Sean? Sean's a great guy.
I know Sean, but I spent most of my time with Corinne.
I know, you guys are like the dynamic duo when we're working together with Solve.
If you ask anyone that works with Corinne, they will tell you she's what kept our team afloat. She did a lot of stuff that didn't get enough credit.
In fact, maybe we should just scrap the script and just everybody who comes in who's old rackers talk about how awesome they are. It can be Friday.
Perfect.
Hey, but this is of course our round two, and as a working mom, it's no problem just to pop up and be ready for an 8:30. Correct? It was the easiest thing you've ever had to do.
Yeah, I know. It's funny you mentioned that because I was thinking about that the other day. I think a lot of people assume it's effortless just to show up and make things happen, whether you're a working parent or not. But to do this twice, of course, I'm happy to do it, but it takes a lot of effort. I mean, I have to coordinate with my husband, my mother-in-law, and then my youngest's nanny. I needed my house empty, and I needed people to be here early, and to get 2 kids out the door early, let alone on time, is you basically feel like you've lived an entire day by the time your kids are at school.
That's incredible, and as a dad and having gone through the whole, now they're up and out of the house. So you've got that to, at some point, look forward to. It happens faster than you can imagine. But at the end of the day, like when I would get up and we would get the kids ready, and of course you have your routines of things. And I was always on I take them to school routine. And my wife was the one who would pick them up because this was pre-COVID, of course. And it was when we all went into the office, generally speaking, all went into the office. But Sarah, you're our first guest of this month of March, which we are focusing completely on women in tech. And our goal here is, of course, to talk about the tech. We couldn't not talk about the tech, but our goal mostly is to shine a light on amazing women who have done amazing things, despite all the stuff you still have to do.
Yes.
You were telling me you had to shower last night. You had to get meals all together and prepared. You already mentioned getting people out of the house. And so first of all, thank you for taking the time to do all of those things. But thank you for coming here and sharing your story. And so my first real question for you, as we continue to say hi to all these lovely people from all around the world, London and India, and of course, all around the US, is how awesome, how is it being a mom? I mean, you had your first ones when we worked together at Rackspace, but another one showed up in the interim time. But tell me about that.
Yeah, so I'm a mom of 2, a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. Being a mother, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to adequately answer this other than it's all consuming. Every waking minute, it's all consuming. And I sort of always give this expression that it's the only thing in the world that makes you feel like a super a superhero, but also completely inadequate in the exact same breath. So that's what it's like being a parent.
I always think they're like, especially as they get a little bit older, you don't see it as much. By 4, you're starting to see it. There are these little mirrors of, holy cow, do I do that? Do I say
Right.
that? Do I behave in this way? Are these the words I use? But they're interesting little humans that run around your house that rely on you for absolutely everything.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Well, and then you work in the whole challenge. I mean, of how do you have a career at the same time? Now, when you started with came to Rackspace, of course, you came in already being married to Scott, and but had your first kids while you were your first daughter while you were there. What was that transition like from working? You were working in the event space. You were helping us conduct these large events all around the U.S., around the world, and now here you have a child. What was that like?
Um, it's hard to put into words. I mean, it was extremely challenging. My whole life, I wanted it all, right? I wanted to be a mother. I wanted this career. I thought, and extremely naive back then, that I could make it all work
Yeah.
then. And the reality was, when I came back to Rackspace after maternity leave, the role that I was in specifically, I just couldn't make work for me and my family. Like you said, I had to travel a few months after I got back to work. Um, but this was also pre-COVID. So trying to work in the logistics of commuting, we moved to Austin shortly after I got back from leave. So commuting on the shuttle from Austin back to San Antonio, scheduling pumping sessions at Castle and in the back of the shuttle, trying to get my daughter picked up from daycare within 30 minutes before she's basically in bed. It was really, really hard. And I loved my job. I think I had, me and my teammates, I feel like everyone wants to be on the event marketing team. Like, we had the best time. We got to see the world and we got to work with almost every racker in some capacity. So it wasn't that I didn't love my career. I absolutely did. I just couldn't make it work. It wasn't suitable for me at the time. And so, despite being offered a promotion right when I got back from leave, which I'm so grateful for, because most women can get overlooked when they're on leave, and also just when you become a mother in general. But I had to make a really hard decision. So trying to transition from a new mom back into the career that I was in at Rackspace, I don't know, I entered postpartum depression, and it was just really, really challenging for me. So I had to resign 6 months after I got back from maternity leave.
Wow.
So it was
Well,
not easy.
I would, yeah, because I know how much you really enjoyed your job. You're so good at it. But well, so many things to say, but I think I'll start with just kudos for making the decision to put your family first and yourself first,
Yeah,
and
thank
not
you.
feel like you had to live up to any one thing. So
Right.
kudos to you in that decision, and to Scott for rallying around you in that time as well. But let's define what that role was, because I think that plays into you've certainly painted the picture of the commute from San Antonio to Austin. Those of you not in Texas or even in the US, that's about an hour-long drive. I don't know how long the commute specifically was for you. It's nice to have somebody else to drive it on the bus, but you already
Yeah.
mentioned the challenges there. But let's talk about the job itself. What is that event marketing team? What did you guys do?
Oh, so we were responsible for all of the US trade shows.
Hmm.
So the team I started on originally was trade shows, but then there was other components like the solve, customer experience, etc. So any event, customer facing event, was probably an experience that my team and all my colleagues under, at one point, Danielle and Heather and then Anna, hosted and put on for our customers.
Amazing. So obviously, guys, these are some incredibly demanding roles, and the months of preparation to go and do one of these large events. And you guys were over all of the large events, and then you're there before the show starts. You're setting all the stuff up. You're running the show, which means
Yeah.
those of us who would go and work the booth. And you guys were there all day long. We just came in for a few hours here and there, and then staying after to break it all down. So
Yeah.
these are long days. That's super challenging type stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And that was The first trip I had to travel to was AWS reInvent, which most people in our industry are familiar with. And it's my favorite event of the entire year. But it was, yeah, it was when I was in Las Vegas 5 months after having Amelia, trying to, again, find the time to pump, coordinating with the hotel for a mini fridge to store my breast milk, getting it back to Texas. There's so many logistical components that are excruciatingly hard. And then to find out later that the mini fridges aren't even cold enough to store your breast milk. I mean, there's just so many things that you don't know the first time around. And it is really, really hard. So my one piece of advice for anyone who leads parents, particularly mothers, offer a lot of grace because there's so much, if you're not a parent yourself, that you just don't understand how complicated and challenging it can be. And that's something you and I talked about, Jeff. You know, when I think back to my time when I led people at Rackspace, I don't necessarily think it's something that I regret, but one of the things I wish I had done differently, and I'm not even sure how I could have done it, but I had several moms that at one point worked with me and at one point for me towards the latter half of my career. And I just didn't get it. I didn't understand why people left at 3:30 or 4, or their kids are always sick. There's just so many things you can't appreciate and fully understand until you become a parent.
Yeah.
And one of them, Gracie, is here. I see her in the chat. I just wish I had so much more grace for these women, and, you know, Whitney and Juliana, and I could go on, all these incredible working mothers. I just didn't know. So I'm sorry. I wish I gave you guys so much more grace. But it's really, really hard. So that is my one tip for leaders if you have parents on your team.
A little grace / a lot of grace goes a long way.
A lot of grace, and consistently, because these kids are always sick and things come up and it's so unpredictable. And that's the really hard part being a working parent, is we have to have flexibility. Like, our job as parents literally require it. And we don't really owe anyone else an explanation.
Well, and you painted, while we were chatting earlier, you painted an interesting story of some of your best friends who have kids, but those kids came along maybe during the COVID era, and that experience is very different than the expectation of being in the office 9 to 5.
Yeah, I mean, of course, but they're different, but equally as challenging and unique. Like, I have some of my best friends who had COVID babies, but they felt extremely isolated. Their friends and family couldn't come visit. They couldn't have their mother in the delivery room with them. I mean, there were so many variables, and then we're extremely fearful in the beginning of all the unknowns. But my experience was also isolating in a pumping room, logistically hard. I wish I could have pumped in the privacy of my own home in sweatpants. You know, there's just so many things. So while my experience is polar opposite, it's all relative. And I think that there was equal challenges, whether you were having a newborn during COVID or having to go back into the office. So it's hard.
Let's do it just for a second, because I think you painted a really interesting, challenging picture of what it means to be a mom and a full-time worker as well. An all-time mom, because there is no just 8 to 5 with being a mom, as you said. So in your role inside of Rackspace, when we were chatting, oh gosh, it was like a month ago where we were prepping for this. By the time you left Rackspace, I mean, you were briefing everyone. You came in. What was the first role you told me? I wrote it down. It was like,
my first role was event planner 2.
Event planner 2. Basically, you're an event planner. It means you're the person who help execute the thing and go do the stuff. You weren't leading people. You were just a doer.
I was just an IC. Yeah.
Individual contributor. That's right. But by the time that finished, I mean, you were briefing the CEO of the company. You were briefing their leaders. You were briefing anybody in the organization. And not only that, when you were prepping to go to some of these large events like AWS reInvent, you were the one who was setting the stage of saying, you, Mr. or Ms. VP, need to be here at this time to do this stuff. And this is your role. You were commanding them.
Yeah. In all of those things that I had to do and learn and practice, those skills absolutely set me up for what came next. So.
Right. But what's impressive about that is your statement to me was, you feel like you could just go and talk to anyone now.
Yeah, I do. I get nervous a little bit, just that's human nature. But, you know, like last night I went to a founder event with like 18 founders and a handful of VCs, and I just don't feel intimidated. when you've worked with some of our past CEOs at Rackspace, um, you're like, okay, well, nothing's going to be as hard and challenging and sort of frightening as that experience was. So I don't know, I'm just not nervous or intimidated by pretty much anything anymore, except my own kids.
Yeah, except your own kids. Well, what an incredible gift, where a thing to have learned while working at Rackspace. So that's obviously one thing that the corporate world has prepped you for in the startup world, and we really need to talk about the startup world. So tell me about your startup.
Yeah, so my startup is Poppylist, and my co-founder, his name is Tamiz Ahmed. He is in Northern California, just like south of San Francisco. I had this idea when I was pregnant with my first. So while I was at Rackspace, I just had such an overwhelming experience building my baby registry. And for any of the parents that are listening, if you built a registry, I'm sure you can appreciate how stressful, daunting, and time consuming this experience was. And I just couldn't find a solution that I was looking for. And I spent, this is sort of hypothetical, but I'm always like, okay, so what has anyone ever spent more than 40 hours researching? Maybe not the cars you drive, probably not the house you own. I don't know. It was just excessive. This experience was not simple. And despite all the research I had done, I still ordered this like mini crib. I sent a picture of the crib after we assembled it to my sister, and her response was, "Why is that crib so small? It looks like a dog bed." And I was like, isn't this standard? So I sent yeah, I sent my sister the dimensions, and she's like, "Oh, that's a mini crib." I was like, "What is a mini crib?" You know, and
Yeah.
the safety regulations are super strict in the US, as they should be. So you cannot return nursery furniture after it's been assembled. It ended up working out, but I was just like, okay, if I just spent 40 hours researching every product and I'm still making mistakes, like surely other people are too. So, you know, I always was ideating on this idea. I remember being in our old neighborhood in San Antonio on a walk with Scott before I delivered. And I was like, how cool would it be if X, Y, and Z existed? And it didn't. And so I was just like, I would like whiteboard with Scott. We would come up with like startup names. This is like before I even had my daughter. We constantly talked about this idea.
Yeah.
And then I had Amelia. I went back to work at Rackspace for 6 months, and I just couldn't stop thinking about this idea. And I would work on it at night when Amelia would go to bed. And yeah, it just, when I quit Rackspace 6 months later, I truly thought I would take some time to like mentally and physically heal, because I didn't really allow myself that time on maternity leave. Like maternity leave goes by so fast. Just as you're starting to get your footing, you're thrown back into corporate. Like 3 months is great, thank you, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
And so when I quit Rackspace, I thought I would take a couple months off to myself. It's what I told my leaders that I would do, and I really believed it at the time. But turns out in my blood, that's just not what I'm capable of doing.
Not what you're wired for.
Yeah, and I felt like this idea for Poppylist sort of brought me back to life in a strange way. And 2 weeks later, after leaving Rackspace, I was enrolled in the Entrepreneur Center of Austin, trying to figure out what to do to start a startup. And that was in March of 2020, and I've been working on it ever since.
Incredible. So where is it today? Tell me. So that you ideated for years, effectively, and
Yes.
so March of 2020, you joined the incubator, the startup program, and now where are we today?
So today we have seen 3 iterations of the product, just trying to engage interest and really trying to find product market fit. So I launched the 3rd iteration on a website called Product Hunt, which is where a lot of startups will launch new or different versions of their technology. That's actually where I met my co-founder. We've been working together officially for about 1.5 years, and last January was when we actually launched our first real product. So the registry platform launched last January. So for 15 months, we've had our like true physical product in the market, and we have customers, and we are iterating, and it's really a dream come true that people like the product, because to me, I'm just like, there's so much we need to improve. It's not perfect, it's not great, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's working for people, and we will continue to make it better. But today we have a working product and customers, and I am just extremely proud that we brought something to market that some parents are using.
That's incredible. How is it how do you monetize it?
Sure. So it's free to anyone that registers, but if you have a gift giver, we take a small commission off every gift purchased. So we monetize that way. And then our second path to monetization, it's a pretty big revenue income stream for us. We've been writing content like blogs for the past 3 years. So affiliate revenue is the other way we can monetize. Well, we do monetize. So yeah.
That's incredible. So, so you and Scott ideate about this for years. It becomes this project that brings about healing in you. It's your, I'll call it your third baby.
Yeah, definitely.
But you bring in a co-founder. Tell me about the process of thinking, I'm good at this, but I think it could be better if I had some help.
Yeah, so, I iterated with like some no code tools. I built a quiz on Typeform. I did everything I could until I couldn't do it. Like I am not technical. I don't know how to code. So I launched on Product Hunt, not truly with the intention that I would need a co-founder. I thought maybe I would just bootstrap and hire someone to build the tech. But I get this email a few months after I launched on Product Hunt from Tamiz, and he always laughs when I tell this story because I share it a little bit more like threatening than it really was. But he basically said, "Hey Sarah, I saw your product on Product Hunt. My wife and I are pregnant with our first. You're basically solving the exact same pain points I'm experiencing. Would you like to chat? If not, I'm going to go do my own thing." So I was like, please do not go do your own thing. I would love to talk to you. And here is this like brilliant person who's worked at really incredible startups. He was the CTO of one of his startups before he joined me at Poppylist. He's Ivy League. So I'm just like, here's me from like Northern Arizona, not to discredit my own education, but someone from Brown University who has this incredible resume wants to work with me. It was extremely validating that I had a really great idea that someone like Tamiz wanted to be a part of. So we started working together unofficially for 6 months just to see if we would be a good fit. And I asked him formally to be my co-founder. So I hired a firm, a law firm here in Austin, to draw up the paperwork. And Scott and I flew to San Francisco a couple months later, and we met for the first time in person and signed our partnership agreement. And we've been working together ever since.
Well, I feel like I need to encourage you for a second because you said here it was so validating that this person with this pedigree thought that the idea was so good. But I would probably challenge you and say that he thought the idea was probably only half of it because he was probably at the point where he really could have just gone and done his own thing.
Totally.
Said, good idea. I can do it better. I'm going to run. So he saw as much potential in you as he saw in the idea.
Yeah. Thank you.
I would venture to guess. So
thank you.
Don't sell yourself short.
Someone says, "Are you hiring for your startup?" Not yet.
Not yet.
We do hire contractors for certain work that we need help with. So we're not hiring for like full-time employees yet. But you can always message me on LinkedIn if you have expertise in engineering or developing, or if you like partnerships.
That's awesome. So Sarah, I saw, as we get towards the top of the hour here, I saw a comment come in from Raymond, and I love it when this comment comes in because Women in Tech on, this is the comment I always watch for. And I get so excited when I see it. And what Raymond says here is, "Hi, Sarah, I'm so proud to see your journey and success in starting Poppylist. And I'm going to share this with my girls. It's my favorite thing to see because I love when real stories from real women doing really incredible work get shared with the next generation coming up."
Well, thank you very much. I'm honored.
And that brings me to the question that I always like to ask as well. And that is for Raymond's girls, or think of it in this way, Sarah, if you could go back and whisper in Sarah's ear as a 12 or 13 or 14-year-old girl who wanted it all and didn't understand what it was all about, what might you tell her? What advice do you have?
I think what I would tell her, I always sort of pictured my life like extremely linear. I think what I would tell her is it's never too late to change your mind. And I think that could apply to anything, and not to be discouraged if you want to basically start over from scratch when you're 31 years old. And if you want it bad enough, and if you have a partner with a stake, in those decisions, make sure you find someone who will rally and support you no matter what. And I'm so grateful, and certainly am not naive to the privilege that it was that I could leave Rackspace and have the support of Scott and other family members to do this. But I think I would tell her, younger me, like I said, it's just never too late to start over.
Yeah.
And also make sure you find someone in life that supports your very crazy big ideas when you don't even know what it could become.
Right. Well, it sort of goes back to the comment where we talk about your founder, and the founder saw value in the idea, but he saw value in what you brought to the table, and the crazy ideas that you have there. So when you think about choosing that partner, choosing somebody who supports all of you,
Yeah.
and not even knowing what that might mean in the future, and sticking with.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't, correction's the wrong word. I want to address, you mentioned what happens when you change your mind. I don't think you changed your mind. You just became more Sarah of who you were intended to be. And the
Yeah.
time at Rackspace was as much a grad school as a grad school might have been.
Yeah, definitely. And and I guess in some ways it still could be linear. Like, I don't think I'm like doing this. I think everything I've done, working for the Spurs, inside sales, making 100 cold calls a day, to
Oh,
this event planning concept and the project management and managing up and public speaking, et cetera, have all really sort of prepared me to um, enter this entrepreneurship world. So you're right. It's just new and different. So I guess also don't be
yeah.
afraid to do anything new and different. You can learn, you can figure it out. There are tools and they're usually free.
Yeah. Yeah, everything you can find in some cases for free.
Yeah.
All right, so in our last minute that we have here, what's on? There's some new stuff going on with Poppylist from a chat point of view. Tell me what we can look forward to.
Yes. So in a couple of weeks, we are relaunching our website. We have a incredible designer here in Austin who's helping us redo our landing page. We are working on telling a more cohesive story, since we have the registry aspect, we have advice and resources in our content and blogs. We have the parent type quiz that matches you with products based on your lifestyle. And now we also just recently launched Ask Poppy, which is an AI chat tool for expecting and veteran parents. So we have a lot happening, and we're getting ready to also launch a free version of Ask Poppy because we want it to be accessible to every parent. So there's a lot happening, and yeah, I'm just really, really excited for the next quarter and what we will become. So,
Well,
hi,
everyone,
Allie.
Hallie's here. Did I miss her in the thing?
She just
Uh,
popped up.
oh, there she is. Well, everyone, parent or not, I encourage you to go out to poppylist.com, see what's happening. Come back in a few weeks and see the things that are happening there. Follow Sarah on LinkedIn and her amazing journey. Share that story as much as you can. Take it home to your kids as well. But Sarah, first of all, thank you for agreeing to be here. I know it can be a little bit nerve-wracking, and a lot of times when I ask women to be on, they're like, what do I have to share? Well, you have made an incredible impression, I think, today on so many people. And thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story.
You're welcome. We women, just a reminder, have a ton to share, a lot to offer, and we deserve to take up space. So anyone in the chat listening, if Jeff asks you to come on, please say yes, because your voice deserves to be heard and our ideas need to be shared. So
That's right, Allie. So look for a call from me. Hey, Adrian's here as well. That's awesome.
hi,
Another excellent
Adrian.
factor. So glad you're
Cool.
here. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. I'm going to let you get back to it because I know that you gave very strict rules that nobody could re-enter your house until 9 o'clock Central.
I actually hear someone already back.
The door. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day. Everyone, enjoy your Friday. Next week on the program, we have an amazing cybersecurity woman, one of the leading cybersecurity women from the country of Africa, if you can believe that. So make sure that you're around on Tuesday morning at 8:30 Central Time to enjoy that show. So everyone, thank you so much for this. I'll call it a special edition of Cloud Talk Live, where we had Sarah Hollingsworth. Go check out Poppy's List. Until next time, folks, my name is Jeff DeVerter. I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist here at Rackspace. Can't wait to see you again next week. Have a great Friday.